Hi, I'm Richard Luftig. I'm a managing partner at Castle Placement. We're an investment bank formed in 2009, FINRA licensed, and we do one thing, which is raise private equity and debt capital. We've raised multiple billions of dollars for our clients, all industries, sizes, geographies, and stages.
Richard, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Same.
I have to say that Richard is like one of the people that I'm really giving the 2 thumbs up to, because he approached me and said, hey, I'm interested in regards of coming on your podcast. And I'm like, and he's like, I hope that's not too presumptuous of me. And I'm like, I love the fact that you're advocating for your business, which is what you should be doing. And I thought it was like so wonderful that I'm like, absolutely 100% yes. And so, because I have a lot of people, like, I mean, more salespeople. They're like, I want to be on the show. I'm like, you're a salesperson. You're not a business owner. And this is for small businesses. This is for entrepreneurs and innovators, because we think differently. And not that a salesperson doesn't, because we do sales naturally, but it's just a whole different entity because you're selling for somebody else, where we sell for ourselves every single day because we believe in what we do. So I'm so proud of you on that one. So this is a good thing.
Not to inflate your ego, but the reason that I made that reach out is that I thought you were a good interviewer, and I think that is few and far between.
Well, all right, so you're inflating my ego, so yay. No, but you know the thing is, like, I learned how to speak English when I was younger. I'm first generation born in America. I'm so curious about people. I mean, literally, any given time I could have been just snatched by someone, because I would go for walks with mom and dad, and we would just go somewhere, and I would just walk. I see something, and I'm just going to go and ask, because I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to read it. I want to ask directly. And so I think it's just years of just me being a vivacious, or whatever word I want to use. But I'm that person where I want to learn from the individual that's doing it. So thank you very much. But that was just years of me being a pain in the tush to my parents, because I would just wander and talk to everybody.
Well, good use of the word tush, and I'm really glad that you were not snatched.
I know, that's a good thing too. All right, so enough about me. Totally about you. We'll talk about me, but like definitely you. I always want everyone to understand that as small business owners, there's that expert that came from it. So like people just assume I'm going to walk into a store, or I'm going to walk into a certain business, and this is what they do, but they don't know the humans behind it. The whole entire concept of who are the people in your neighborhood. So before we even talk about your business, want to know, who are you? So from a youthful you, where are you, where you're from, about your family, but also going up to the point where you're in college and that first job. I want to know how did you be you? How were you developed?
Sure. So I grew up on Long Island, suburb of New York. I actually today live about 5 miles from where I grew up. And when I got out of college, I just by pure happenstance, because I was very disorganized and pretty nonchalant about going through the job seeking process senior year of college. I ended up working for a boutique investment bank. Not that I knew what a boutique investment bank was, but that's where I ended up working right out of college. And I worked there for 7 years. And that firm, which still exists, it's called the Redstone Group. That firm does substantially similar activities to what Castle Placement does now. So it was a good formative job.
Yeah, you know what? I love how you skipped over such a big, huge chunk of your life. So I'm going to rewind a little bit. Rewind a little bit. Upstate New York.
No, suburb of New York City.
Suburb of New York City. And I love that concept of you were disorganized, because the world that you're in right now is pretty organized. And so is someone in your family in the financial background where even though you say you were disorganized, to come into this culture of financials, either it's embedded in you, it's deeply embedded in you, or the business that first business that you were given the opportunity, they saw something in you that they're like, you know what, this kid has it, and he can actually like grow his skill sets in this industry.
None of that.
Oh.
So,
I love it.
so although my dad was into computers way before people were into computers, he actually tried to get his PhD in computer science. And the way he told the story, which I still don't really believe, but the way he told the story, he sat for the entire PhD curriculum, but couldn't get his thesis done because he couldn't get anyone to read it. That's what, to get a PhD, you have to have someone read your thesis. And no one, according to him, knew anything about computer science, so they couldn't read his thesis. I think that story's a little sketchy, but I don't know.
I would assume that because it's computer science, that someone out there would have been interested in it, unless he, again, marketed it the wrong way. Unless he sold that story where I have this fishtail of a story versus, hey, I'm an engineer and I kind of like found other ways to maneuver this new technology.
Yeah, we'll never know.
But
in any case, so I had no finance background. But when I was in college, Wall Street was really hot, and that was the thing to do. And, all these recruiters came to college to find students, and you had to take your resume and put it in the different baskets for each company. And I just didn't do it. I don't know why, but I just didn't do it. And it was
wait, you didn't do it, but what happened? Did you just like walk away and say like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but this is definitely not for me?
It was just like, you have to have your resumes submitted to the baskets by X date. And I procrastinated and didn't get to it and just didn't do it. So finally, I went into the career center and just said, here's my resume. If there are any stragglers or whatever, if I can get involved in this process. And there was this boutique investment bank that I guess was a straggler that was looking for help. And I ended up with them. And it was extraordinarily lucky thing because the head of that firm became my mentor and inspiration, and is still one of my best friends in the world. So even though he's 20 years older than I am.
Well, I always say the universe provides, because you could have ended up in any of these other random businesses and your life could have been dramatically different, but it probably could have been not right. I mean, the amount of people that I speak to personally and professionally that get that degree, they get the job, they do everything that's right, that the school human resources or whatever the academic activities office says, this is where you're supposed to be. This is the trajectory of what you're supposed to do. And then they're in that job and they're like, this is what a waste. Or they retire and they're like, well, what do I do now? Because I've been doing this because everyone told me this was what I was supposed to do. And I'm kind of lost, or I've lost my identity.
No question. Our interns are always in this part of their life, and they're always asking me for advice regarding the process. And I basically tell them that don't worry about it too much. It doesn't matter much what you do right out of college. I said, actually, the most important thing is for whom you work. Like, the person that's supervising you is more important than anything, in my opinion. But especially on Wall Street, there are so many different aspects to finance, whether it be back office or sales and trading, debt capital markets, equity capital markets, research, M&A, investment banking, capital raising, securitization. I can go on and on. And I think that to be really good at it, successful, you have to have exposure to almost all of those different aspects. So I don't think the entry point is necessarily that important.
I'm going to tap into something that you just said that's extremely dear to my heart, is mentoring. I literally try to push as many people as possible, if they're ready, to mentor, because it is a horrific sin, I believe, if you acquire all this intelligence. I mean, like whether it's university, college, travels, your family, you've acquired all this intelligence and then you die with it. It's just ridiculous. And so this individual saw something in you. This individual is still in your life. What was it about him or her? Was it female or male?
He's male.
Yeah. So what was it about him that really stood out to you? Because he could have wanted to mentor you, but you could have been not mentorable. Not a word. I just made it up. I'm putting it out there.
We'll give you full credit. So he's a genius. He's really funny. He's extremely knowledgeable on all subjects. He's fascinating, nice. He's generous. He's kind of like everything you'd want to be. Well, I don't know about you, but everything I'd want to be.
So what advice would you tell someone that is, I mean, because most small businesses, they know they need help in something. They know that they need to get advice. They just assume, oh my God, I'm going to have to hire a consultant or advisor. And they don't realize it's not always the case where you have to hire someone to give you advice. You could seek something out. So what advice would you give to anyone that owns a business? Because right now, as you've noticed, 4.4 million people in April and then 4.2 million people in October walked away from great paying jobs. But guess what? Those great paying jobs didn't have something that kept them there. And so what advice would you give to someone internally inside of a company, as well as externally, someone that's like owns their own business? How do I find a mentor? How do I keep a mentor? What do I do with it? It's like, how did you use the resources that you had? Because you were given this like amazing gift of being in the right place at the right time, where most people would think, well, he was just straggling. He didn't really know what he did, but everything happened perfectly for you that led you to where you are. So there are people that are leaving their jobs. There are people that are in a job, or people that are like looking for a business. They're looking for guidance. What advice would you give to them in regards to finding? Because again, you got the job, didn't mean that this guy was going to be your mentor. And as well as, how do you keep that relationship going? Because you've been with him for quite some time.
Right. So it's really easy to find a mentor. People love to help. People love the attention that a mentee is providing to them. It's kind of it's very fulfilling. The problem is that I would say 99.9% of people are way too shy or afraid to reach out to that prospective mentor. But if they did, I don't think it would be real hard at all to establish that relationship.
I agree with you. I do speeches, and I literally like the largest room that I've ever been in, 6,000 people, and I always pick someone in the audience, and I'm like, dial this phone number, and it's usually my cell phone number, and I have they can hear it ringing. I'm like, if anyone in this room needs 30 minutes, I will give you 30 minutes. No one to this day has ever called me. To this day, I travel around the world, and no one to this day is the fear of, is the person really going to help me, or the fear of maybe they're just insecure in themselves.
Oh, we could spend 5 or 6 hours trying to unravel that, but it's just really a microcosm of human nature and business in general, that people don't reach out. I'm not a psychologist. I can't tell you why they don't.
No.
I think fear is a big part of it, and lack of self-confidence, but that has never been an impediment for me personally. And whatever success I have, I think that a big part of it is that I do reach out.
I'm starting something in 2022. I'll give this to you too. Every month, the first of the month, where internally I always say rabbit, because it's like literally that good luck of rabbit, first day of the month. I'm also going to put out to everyone where I'm going to have one ask every single month. So 12 asks, which is not bad, but I think that it gets you out of your comfort zone of like, I have a great community. Why don't I ask? And in that way, if you can be fun about it and engage people, I think that's like a way to open doors. And also, it's someone that's out there that's reading it. might get to the point where like, oh, that's a good idea. I should do that as well.
No doubt.
No. Okay. We're going back to you. So now you get this, so you're in college, you get this job. What is it about this industry? Because I mean, you're in school, you're learning about it, but what is it about this industry that keeps you going? And how do you get to the point where you are like, how many jobs or positions that are you in before you actually are now a partner in your own business?
Sure. So after about 4 years at my first company, the economy kind of tanked, and I was working, and about 5 o'clock, my desk was free from papers. I don't know if you remember this, but there used to be papers, and
There's still paper on my desk.
okay. And there really, no matter how hard I tried, I could not think of a lot of things to do. It was just very, very slow. And
What year are we talking about right now? Are we in
1990.
90? Okay, 1990.
But thank you for that. Yes. In any case, so 08.
Well, I was thinking about because I was thinking about the recession.
Yeah, but do some math on my age.
Well, I
four
cannot
years
guess.
out of college.
I cannot
All right,
guess.
anyway, as I said, thank you. So it was 1990, and real slow. And this mentor, who was my boss, he was a lawyer. And I always felt that he had a huge advantage in every meeting, in every situation, that he just saw things that other people did not see. And I thought that the fact that he was a lawyer, I thought that was a big advantage. So I applied to law school, and I went to law school at night while I was working for this investment bank during the day. And I did that for 3 years. And then when I graduated from law school, I left this boutique investment bank, and I went to work for a larger investment bank. And I basically worked for 4 large investment banks over the next few decades. And then we started Castle Placement, 2009.
What was it like from that whole entire essence of quintessential New England? I mean, I'm sorry, quintessential small boutique. I live in New England. We have boutiques everywhere. I mean, like literally, like the small neighborhood or the small where we don't want to get any bigger than 75 to 100 employees, kind of thing. So like, it's just something that I know so well because it's the way we are in New England. So what was it like for you, where for 4 years of your life, everything that you were taught in that small essence of like people knew everyone's names. It was very engaging. You knew your
7 years,
yeah. Yeah, for you knew all your customers, like not by a number, not by a sheet of paper, but you knew them, all the good, the bad, and ugly about them. And now you're going to these big firms where these firms you do definitely become a number. You can get lost in the shuffle. And how do you actually even find ways to stand out in that kind of environment?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I was at a boutique investment bank, which had maybe 10 people for 7 years. And then I went to work for these gigantic Wall Street behemoths. So you're right, it is culture shock, but I loved it. I mean, I was on a trading floor for all those years, and I absolutely loved being on a trading floor. I thought it was so much fun. It was much more fun back then than it is today.
Yeah.
But it's hard to stand out. There's no question. I know that I personally, just because of my personality and my intellectual curiosity, I always was trying to do something unique and different at the investment bank. I was always trying to create a new product or a new structure or a new branding that was kind of my own. And sometimes that was very, very successful. And sometimes it was completely not successful and not well appreciated by the organization at large. but that's how I am. I, think of some idea and I'm like, we should be pursuing this, um, and try to get approvals and budget and technology and try to build new things. That's kind of, I don't think I did it to stand out. I think I did it just because I have to do it. That's like who I am. But I often did stand out, sometimes in a positive way, sometimes in a not so positive way.
Well, let's just talk about that for a quick second, where I always love, I love the drawing outside the line kind of folks, because anyone could sit there and just do something that's like, this is what you're supposed to do. You're like, now we were going back to college. Everyone was there. Everyone put their resumes in the into little buckets. Everybody was doing what they were told. And you, again, found another way of drawing outside the line. So now I'm just curious, when you were growing up, what kind of kid were you? Because this is twice you've just mentioned how I'm going to draw outside the line because it's fun. So what kind of kid were you growing up?
I definitely couldn't draw in the lines, literally. That might be an artistic thing, but I don't know. I was good at school. I didn't. I was disorganized. There's no question. I'm sure today I would have been diagnosed on some spectrum somewhere. No question, 100%. I also have like a learning disability, which I still have to this day, in that I can't absorb information and understand it. So like I can't have a teacher teach me stuff by listening to him or her, or I can't read a textbook and then close it and say, now I understand this material. My brain just can't process information that way. I'm a very interactive thinker, which is why I think the internet was actually built for me, because I love just being able to go out and find the information that I need and then find additional information and ancillary information until I can put it all together so that I can understand it. But whenever I'm in a conversation, I'm constantly interrupting people, which I'm sure they think I'm a jerk, but it's really because if you're going on for 5 minutes, it's not penetrating. So I have
Okay,
to
Rich.
stop.
So this is where we're going to become best friends. So I'm dyslexic, and I didn't find out I was dyslexic until I was applying for my MBA program. And I know it's the most insane thing, but I had international parents that were like, "You're going to get an A. I don't care what you do without lying, stealing, cheating, killing, or hurting yourself. You're getting an A." And so you play these games and figure out like, how do I learn? I'm afraid of my parents, so I'm going to learn whatever it takes. And so for me, I audiobooks are my best friends. If I was given an opportunity in class, they're like, "Do you want a written test or the audible?" I'm like, I will get up in front of people and I will talk it out. I can remember it. And I was that kid where I would take the phone apart because I need to see it, and then I could put it back together with no problem. Let me touch it, let me feel it, let me absorb it. History, I love history, not in a book. I want to go to Cuba and like, oh, this is where Chai and Fidel were hiding. Oh, I get it. I want to be in Russia where, okay, now I'm at the museum. I want to visualize it. So if I'm there, it's with me forever. And my dad always said, in America, they teach you how to take a test and then it's gone. But I go in other countries, they teach you to have it forever. And they come up with creative ways for you to learn it, and you will recite it and it'll be part of who you are for as long as you live.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we both face different types of challenges, but it makes perfect sense.
I think I always say it's not a challenge, but it's more so of a superpower, because at a certain time, it was a struggle for us at the time. But now when you are thinking about when you're working with your clients, when you're like learning a new aspect of the financial world, because it's constantly moving now. I mean, it's like, it's no longer I open a book and it's like medical, financials. I mean, nothing is textbook anymore. And so everyone in every single industry that we thought, I go to school, I get this degree, law will never change, medical will never change, financial will never change. Right. Guess what? Everything has changed leaps and bounds. And so how does that make it? So how does Little Rich and the way that you were convert to who you are now and what you do for your clients?
Well, there's one constant, and throughout my entire life, and that is I'm very competitive, way to a fault competitive. And, I played sports constantly when I was a kid,
Mhm.
and, I wanted to win, and I worked really hard to be a good player and to win. Worked
Mhm.
really hard. And in school, um, I worked haphazardly, and my parents were the exact opposite of your parents. They never discussed grades with me, um, but there was no need to. It would have been a total waste of oxygen because I wanted to get the A. Period. I was going to get the A, and I just would work really hard to do it and hustle. And
Mhm.
like I was never the most talented athlete or the most talented student or the most talented investment banker. Um, but I will outwork people and I'll out hustle them and I'll be extraordinarily persistent.
Mhm.
So I would say that's the constant from the little to the bigger.
I do like that because um, across the board of every single person that I've ever spoke to, the word the hustle comes up so often. Where when you are like laser focused, not just focused, but laser focused on something that you love, and you're like going to do whatever it takes to get there. And I think that's one of the things where whether your parents or my parents, we knew what we had to accomplish, and no matter what, we got there, which was really great. Um, Tell me about what is your company? What do you do exactly? Or just like I shouldn't say exactly because there's so many different avenues of where you go. And also, who's your ideal clients? I put that S
Okay,
there for a reason.
sure. But before I answer that question,
Mhm.
you asked me a question way back when that I did not answer.
Which is
So you asked me about what I love about uh, investment banking. And by far, what I love the most is that our clients are from like every industry and every sub industry within that industry. So every day I'm learning a new business, hearing a new story, learning about a new technology, a new innovation, meeting these incredible people.
Mhm.
And that was true when I graduated from college, and that is true today. And that part of the business, I think, is absolutely amazing. But anyway, so you asked about castle placement.
Mhm.
The easiest way to think about it, macro, is that there are millions of companies in the world,
Mhm.
and there are millions of investors in the world.
Yep.
And the companies, many of the companies, are seeking capital
Mhm.
to grow or to buy another business, what have you. And those millions of companies who are trying to meet the millions of investors, and those millions of investors that are trying to meet the companies so that they can deploy capital, uh, have no efficient, sophisticated, cohesive way to meet each other.
Mhm.
And that is why castle placement exists. And that was our mission from day one. And luckily, it's a multi-trillion-dollar playing field.
Mhm.
So, if you do it right, you can really scale. And, you know, we've gone from 2 investment bankers to now 35 investment bankers. And we certainly want to be 350 investment bankers, and then we'll see what happens from there. But it's extremely scalable, and everything
Mhm.
we've built for 12 years is towards that goal. So what we do is we get hired by companies
Mhm.
that are seeking to raise capital, and we find the investors for them, and we get paid a fee when that transaction closes.
What makes you different than anybody else out there? What makes you stand out? Because it seems like what you just said is like very simplistic. I need money. You come in, you get us the money, you walk away, or you stay with us. Like, what makes you stand out? Because so many individuals, especially during COVID, which we'll talk about the pandemics. During that time, people are just constantly looking, and there's just so much noise. I could go on the internet, I could Google it, but there's so much noise. And back in the day, as simple as can be, it was word of mouth. Everyone knew who the go-to person was. But now there's so many people that are just like they're selling you, not selling you, they're selling you snake oil. And so how does one find you? What makes you stand out? Why do I want to engage with an organization with you? Or and as a business owner, do I even need to engage with you?
Yeah, well, you definitely need to engage with us or with someone on par with us. Because first of all, when a company is looking to raise capital, if they raise the capital, that doesn't mean that that was a success, because you can raise capital from a terrible partner, or you can raise capital on terms which are extremely disadvantageous to you.
Mhm.
So you can walk away and say, hey, I closed the transaction and I did it all by myself. And you have no idea that you just got completely hosed, and your business is going to suffer, and you personally are going to suffer for years to come because you didn't do it well. To make an analogy, maybe it's a stupid analogy, but someone can probably perform surgery on their arm themselves, and maybe they would, I don't know, but don't do it.
Well, it's funny. It's so funny that you say you use that one. My best friend is a nurse, and when she was in nursing school, they would perform I was going to say lobotomy, not a lobotomy.
They would perform lobotomies on themselves. That's cool.
Phlebotomist. They would literally just like draw blood, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh yes, no big deal. We'll just draw our own blood to test it out. And I'm like, are you high? And she's like. Like what? And she's like, it's no big deal. I go, you go and get your blood drawn. It's what you do, and you have to know which veins and things like that. So you could use that. I'm like, but I asked her, I'm like, doesn't it make sense to actually try it on somebody else? And she's like, of course it does. But you also want to know how to do the procedure on you first. And I'm like, oh, okay. Does that help your analogy, or does it hurt your analogy?
I just keep thinking that she was doing a lobotomy on herself, but in any case, my point is that we have spent 12 years every day building out technology, tools, process, systems, regulatory compliance, legal, and investment bankers who are experienced, intelligent, and effective.
Yeah.
And we've integrated the technology with the full service investment banking.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we think is required to get the best execution for your transaction. So yes, someone can try to do it themselves.
Yep.
Yes, they can work with a mediocre investment bank, and they may fail, or they may quote unquote succeed. But I think it's unlikely that they're going to succeed, meaning they got the best execution on the planet for their capital raise, which means the best structure with the best financial partners.
You were in school, you meet this gentleman that's your mentor. You have a law background, and you're not the only person that I know that's in the financial realm that has a law background. Would you advise someone to, if they're going into this industry, to get one, or is it not needed?
Wow. Well, I went to undergraduate business school, so I didn't think an MBA was that value add for me.
Okay.
I can't speak for other people. I know that it's been extraordinarily helpful for me, unquantifiable, just incredibly helpful every day.
Well, because literally you're the fourth person that I know that not only started their career. You're probably close to the same age as I am, but literally started your career, and individuals that went to law school were on. I mean, they have stories for days of being on the trade floor. But I never heard them talking about the law aspect as much of the trading, the financial growth. I mean, all these different things. And so this is why I was like so curious in regards of, do you recommend it? Or is it something like this is probably not needed?
First of all, regarding our ages, I really do think you have to start doing some math on this, but
I'm 52 years old, so I don't know how old you are.
I'm 57.
Boom. So see, very close in age. So it's all good.
Fair enough.
It's
I
the
did not-
illusion. No one ever knows how old I am. And I really say it all the time. And everyone's like, what? I'm like, Irish Spring. It's what I use on my face. So if you know anyone at Irish Spring, I'm looking for them to be a sponsor. I love them so much. I am their biggest advocate.
So what were we talking about?
In regards to the law, I mean, like,
Yes.
You're like
Okay,
the fourth or fifth person that I know.
So here's what cracks me up. How many times have you been on a conversation or in a meeting where someone says, well, that's a legal issue. The lawyer will handle that.
In the business world all the time.
Yeah. So I would suggest that there's no such thing as a legal issue. Okay. Every issue is both a business issue and a legal issue. Every issue. So this distinction is way off base, and I think people are really hurt. I was just reading a LinkedIn post and some comments there too, where the person was saying that I just sign contracts. I don't have time to read contracts. That's what I have lawyers for. And
my eyes just went open like, what?
Yeah, like I wish I could short that person. But yeah, so I don't know. I just feel like I have perspective, which is really helpful for me. Every conversation, every analysis, every negotiation, I just feel like it's really helpful. With that being said, I never practiced law for a client on a day-to-day basis. Like, that was not my thing. It was just a training for me. It just so happens that in the last 12 years, I've done an enormous amount of legal work for Castle Placement.
Yeah.
So I have honed those skills pretty significantly recently. But for the first few decades, it was just training.
Nice. I love it. March 2020. March 2020 comes into our land. The buzz is happening all over the world. And then countries, cities, states, businesses start shutting down. They're like, how do we even think about changing our business model? Now people are working from home. Now people are e-commerce. Now we're watching people like mass exit from their jobs. There's so much ripples effect of what's happening, and the economy is getting hit in every single direction, leaps and bounds. What was it like for you when the buzz started in regards of there may be a bug coming around, and like it's in Europe, it's in Asia, but now it's in the United States? And how has the past 19, 20 months been for you and your organization?
Yeah. The pandemic, although absolutely horrible, and the loss of life and the sickness and the disruption, absolutely horrible, from a business perspective, had no impact on us for several reasons. In terms of operations, since we've built our whole business around technology, we have a paperless office. People were working remotely. I mean, we had and have our headquarters in Manhattan, but we've had bankers all over the country and all over the world. So we had to be paperless and have everything in the cloud and have efficient systems so that everyone can communicate and that all of our information can be in an orderly fashion where everyone can access it and share. So from that perspective, it wasn't like, oh no, people have to start working from home. That was a nothing burger for us. From one day to the next, didn't have any impact. from a business perspective, the statistics are clear. Capital formation and capital raising has been at record levels every year for the last 5 years. So the pandemic didn't, I don't think, have a negative impact on capital formation. It did very much change the types of companies that were successful at raising capital. Just to give a few examples, during the peak of the pandemic, you wouldn't want to be a hotel company or an airline trying to raise capital, right? But you would definitely want to be an e-commerce or artificial intelligence or telemedicine company trying to raise capital. And that's what's just so cool. I mean, capital is incredibly evolving and able to pivot and move to the most advantageous place. So yes, many industries were out of luck, other industries were in luck, but as an intermediary, as an investment bank, didn't really matter to us. We just started focusing on clients that were advantaged from the trends and slowed down or stopped working with clients that were not good candidates for capital raising. Just like obvious.
Well, I have to say that I am very happy that you said that, because I work, I advise, I consult, I do speeches and consulting for a lot of small businesses, startups. And when in 2008, sitting in an MBA program, literally watching the world implode, fast forward 12 years and the world is imploding again, but it's just dramatically different because now I'm amongst the entrepreneurial ecosystem, the small businesses that know how to change ways very quickly. And literally they came up with, even small businesses that, well, my storefronts or my businesses can't be open, they created products that would have never existed, or it could have existed, but years from now. And so I was watching the most amazing products coming out, and I'm still excited about the products that we don't know yet, that they're still in stealth, and all the things that are going to come out because of the pandemic and the way that we were living. And I kept on telling people, there is silly money out there. There's lots and lots of silly money, because there are people that don't have children and they don't want to give to their universities and colleges. They want to be part of something big, and they don't know how to navigate this world, and they want to find you to get them to, like, how do I find the next big thing? And so that's one of those moments where during this time, during the moment of, because I call it, this is as long as you were healthy and you were fine, this was a moment of pause to think about, like, where am I really investing my dollars? And also, what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? And who's going to help me? Who's going to guide me to that point? Because you could actually get a person to guide you and grow your money, but if it's just sitting there, it's really not doing anything. But if you're able to like meet someone like you and like, okay, I want to actually like be part of the next tech XYZ. So one of the companies I interviewed, and it's bouncing ball image. It's a ball, simple ball, but this ball is heat censored, has eyeballs, and it's made for the military, where you throw the ball in a room and could give you an eye view in real time of what's going on right now. Now, of course, they were on NCIS. They've been like getting a lot of media. So many just random individuals that have money. They're like, I want to be involved. They're like, are you associated with anyone? They're like, nope, I saw you on TV. I read about you. I want to be involved. And I think that's really where it's getting exciting, because people are finding new ways to actually get involved with life sciences, with technology, with whatever's.
You hit the nail on the head. And what's really fascinating is just the confluence of events that have occurred to facilitate that. Because if you think about it, and I don't hear very many people talking about this, but if the pandemic had happened 30 years ago, it would have been dramatically worse from an economic perspective. So the fact that the internet has evolved over the last 25 years and the fact that the government, the United States government, has implemented the Jobs Act and equity crowdfunding.
Mhm.
All of this has collided,
Mhm.
and there's now an explosion of, they call it democratization, but
Yeah.
an explosion of giving every person who has money, and we understand that way too many people don't have discretionary income to invest, but everyone who does have money can have a much more direct route to the types of investment opportunities that interest them. And that's a very good thing. On the flip side, maybe even a much better thing, is that all types of people, entrepreneurs, women, minorities, the unentitled,
Mhm.
they all now have access to capital. And that is society changing, that is world changing. I don't think too many people are really following the plot,
Yep.
but it is great, in my opinion, for the world that people with good ideas who are honest and hardworking,
Yep.
that they can now attract capital, not because they have a fraternity brother or an uncle who's in the business, but because they are great.
Yep.
That is really fantastic.
I love that you said that, because that for me it is a big deal where I love companies like Fundrise, where they're like, why can't everyone invest in real estate? I don't understand. And because of that, I'm going to change that. Or God, the other company, but Lyft, where like, why can't like I just use my car and make money? Why can't I sit there and like try to figure out a plan like this? Or a Starbucks, where Starbucks is like obviously a larger entity, but it started small in Seattle and it grew big. Where you're looking at Amazon's, and yes, with all the good, bad with Amazon, he did start in his garage. And I remember when I started using Amazon, and it was just, I didn't want to pay that fee for school books. And then before I knew it, oh look, they have rulers now. Oh look, they have a calculator now. And I honestly can say that I don't know how it evolved to the point where it is right now, because I had always been with it. I mean,
Right.
I remember when I first went on it, because some kids said like, in line, while we're like we paid $250 for a marketing book, and now I'm getting back $10 for the same stupid marketing book, and I'm in line, and they're like, yeah, just sell it on Amazon, you'll get more money. I'm like, what's this Amazon thing? And so it is one of those things where people forget how it started small and how things have evolved. And the person that's really hungry, the person that's really hustling, is really finding ways to draw outside the line and find those individuals like, do you want to be part of something bigger? Do you want to evolve to a different way of doing business?
You cracked me up with that story because in 1998, I was at Credit Suisse First Boston, and people were starting to yap about this thing called email. And, you got to check your email. You got to send me an email. And, I was really busy closing $100 million transactions. I didn't have time for this email thing. So I was just avoiding it. And then one time, someone came over to me and said, how come you weren't at that investment committee meeting? Like you needed to be there. And I was like, what meeting? They said, didn't you get the email? And I was like, oh, I better I better look into this email thing.
I should check those things. I when I was a radio producer, and my interns always laugh because they're like, well, how did you book a show? I'm like, I go, what do you mean? Because we didn't have a computer. I mean, that guy go like, well, my fax machine and my phone were my best friends. And you'd go in the morning. I was like a morning show producer, and I would go in there, and the stupid thing was jammed. I'm like, no, my show, the stupid thing is jammed. And I mean, and the second you fed more paper, and then it would start shooting out things from like, for everyone in the building. But it was a different way of doing things, but the job still got done. But it is one of those moments where, all right, I better check my email. I always say to anyone, I go, you may not like the new technologies, you may not like the social media, you may not like it, but when you own a business, you have to understand it, and you don't have to like it, but you have to understand it to actually get ahead of the person that's next door, that's your competitor.
Great advice.
I mean, it is one of those. I mean, digital marketing. Yes. Do I use it? Absolutely. When I'm not working, oh no, I'm outside. I'm going for a run. I'm going for a week. I don't have to have it with me all the time. And I don't have to like all the platforms, but I definitely know it. I know of all of them because I talk to my clients. So when I'm talking to my interns, I always tell them if I say something, they look at me like, Google it. And if you don't Google it and get me a great answer to it, guess what? Tomorrow you're doing your job with no electronics. And they look at me like, what? So like they have to come in, and content writers, no computer. You're writing, you're handwriting, you're graphic designer, they're drawing it. I need you to think bigger and stronger. And you can't just be complacent to the ways of the past and the ways of the future.
Excellent.
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 Those little things. I'm like, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but come on, you got to like think bigger. Where do you feel that your industry is going to go, and as we evolve? Like we're eventually going to get out of the pandemic, but there's going to be other pandemics of our lives. I mean, look, whether it's wars, whether it's we have so many other things that are definitely going to go on, because meaning it was just 10 years ago when it was the Great Recession, and so. Do we think that we're going to be in this situation 12 years later? Absolutely not. Well, actually, it was 10 years later. So it's coming as the world continues to grow, as technology, as people, as the world starts shrinking. There's going to be a lot more things happening. Where do we go from here? I mean, we have the NFTs, we have the Bitcoins, we have so many things that are now official noise that are in the financial world. How do people grow their finances? How do people engage in learning? Because I think this is a topic where, remember, we don't talk about religion, we don't talk about money, and we don't talk about politics. And so how do people start talking about this entity of how do I make my money grow and work for me versus against me?
And now, a message from our sponsor. Since 2017, the Foundation for Business Equity has existed to support Black and Latinx-led companies in reaching their full potential by providing access to critical growth tools that include expanded networks, capital, and markets. To learn more about the Foundation for Business Equity, FBE, visit fbequity.org. And now, back to our guest.
By the way, I'm happy to discuss those three topics if you'd like. What's happening, in my opinion, is that there are like content providers. You can call them influencers, writers, speakers, inventors, musicians, business builders. And right now, a huge amount of their production is being monetized by 6 or 7 companies like Facebook and Google and Twitter. But what's happening, and it's slow, and it's going to continue to be slow, because we're in a regulatory and a technology. There are regulatory and technology constraints which prevent things from happening overnight. But it is happening, and you better be on the right side of it, not on the wrong side of it. And what's happening is that those content providers, the musicians, the writers, the speakers, the business builders, they are going to be able to monetize their production directly because of tools like equity crowdfunding and other ways of raising capital. So, like if you think about someone who has a great idea and is building the business, they can do a Reg CF equity crowdfunding. They could raise $5 million. Then they can do a Reg A crowdfunding. They could raise up to $75 million. They can do a Reg D 506C capital raise. They can raise hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, and then they can do an IPO. And all of those steps are being disintermediated. So a lot of the fat is being chiseled away, and the barriers between the producers and the investors is being whittled away. And that efficiency is, I think, a real engine for for growth, and for growth of all types of people, not just the entitled few who used to be able to accomplish what they needed to accomplish within the confines of their country club. That's gone.
I was just gonna say golf club. I'm like a golf course. I'm like, but yeah, we know. I love how you said that because I remember when I was in radio, we would have this, like, this is again showing that age thing where on Fridays, kids would come with their cassettes and we would have a make it or break it. We'd play your song, and if it was rated really high from our listeners, we'd call the record reps. And if it wasn't, we would take a hammer and crash it. And back in the day, cassettes were like hard. It was disheartening. We're like, oh my God, do I have a copy of the song? And so when you made it, you weren't going to beat a Rolling Stones or a Michael Jackson or like any of those major artists at the time, but you were going to, we could find a way to get you on a CW or back in the WB, like teeny bopper show, because those teeny boppers would love the song that's underplayed on the love scene. And all of a sudden you were huge. So these like big artists that came out of nowhere, but it wasn't like they came out of nowhere. They were like hidden within a teeny bopper song. So strategically they knew how to product place. And so I think that's one of the moments where I was trying to get a record rep to pay attention to me. I got on a teeny bopper show, but then I created my following on MySpace. And then from there, now the record reps are coming here. For books, same thing where I can beg and plead a publishing house to sign my book, but then I could self-publish as well. And it still does the same thing because then I go on Amazon and my book is next to Chelsea Clinton's book. Okay. And so hearing that's happening in the financial world is ginormous because for years people were like, how am I ever going to sit there and make an edge where if they don't know about these other industries doing it, I go, enough is enough of someone saying and dictating how my life is going to be, where I can take full control. And now to know that it's possible in the financial world on a higher level is game changer.
I agree.
How does one find you, and who is the best client? Like I didn't hear who's the best client for you and for your team.
Sure. So, capital is attracted to smart, honest people who have experience, strong track records of success, who have built a business or a platform that has actual customers and clients. Like we have so many potential clients that have spent 5 years raising money and putting together business plans and pro formas. And, where is your client? Have you found someone on this earth that will pay you money for your product and service? Yeah. Oh, no, well, we haven't done that yet. So it's all about execution. Capital wants to invest in companies that execute on their business plan in an exciting, innovative, scalable business where if it's all done well, it can have a massive return. So it's pretty easy when we have a prospective client. It's pretty easy for us to do our triage and kind of determine which clients are going to be attractive to our investors.
Nice, very, very nice. By the way, yeah.
One thing that we're blessed with is that we've had enough success that now we can be extremely selective about the type of people with whom we work. And that is a complete life-changing, game-changing event for us. So now we can just work with nice people who are honest and straightforward and a pleasure to work with. And, that's not all people. And at the beginning, we were much less selective. And that's, soul crushing to work with those type of people. So I would just add that
I'm so happy you said that though. That right there is gold, because of the power that an individual has when they own their own organization, their own business, to actually select the right customers. It shouldn't be, no one should have the right to treat you poorly. Once again, going back to the 4.4 million people that continually are leaving. So, by calculation, we're like, we're at the 10 million mark of individuals that are walking off the jobs because they're sick and tired of being tired and sick.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
well put. No
Yeah.
question. Yeah. So when you ask what type of client, I jumped right into the business and the financial projections and the opportunity, but it's also about the actual human being. We like to
Yeah.
work with really high quality people.
My last question before my last question is, new year, just like the gym, people are thinking about their finances. Like January 1st, I'm going to sign up for the gym. I'm going to sit there, like, get back in shape. Well, January 1st, I'm going to sit and get my finances right where they're supposed to be after I just spent a crap load of money during the holidays. What would be one piece of advice that you should tell people to start? I'm starting to think about it. I want to start organizing. What should I start thinking about right now as the year is ending?
I don't know. My philosophy has always been, I don't like making speculative investments. I like focusing on my career and making money. I'm very, very conservative about investing my money. I feel like with my hard work and perseverance that I can make a sufficient amount of money to be happy, dangerous word, but happy, satisfied, whatever. So I would tell people to be careful. I mean, it's been really good since 2010. It's
Yeah.
been really good. And there are a lot of people who actually haven't lived through a crisis. The pandemic is a crisis, I get it. And we've had some volatility, but basically things have been really good for a really long time.
Yeah.
Not going to continue. So if you're, throwing your money into cryptocurrencies that you know nothing about, if you're throwing your money into NFTs because it's fun or interesting, I would say be extraordinarily careful and more conservative with your hard-earned money.
That's perfect. That's a perfect way to go into our last question. But I mean, I love that you said that, because I think that people see the shiny coin and they're like, "Ooh, I want the shiny coin." I go, "But the shiny coin's at the bottom of the pool on the deepest end." No, but I want the shiny coin.
Right.
And so yeah, so I'm very happy that you said, like, I go, yeah, be cautious and put in your waders. So, in regards to the last question, I end every single interview, every single conversation with the same thing. And no matter how many times, because this is not the last time that we will talk, but every single time I talk to you, I will always ask the same thing of everyone, which is, if you had a personal ask and a professional ask, what would be your personal ask and what would be your professional ask to anyone that's listening to you right now?
Sure. Personal ask is to be a straightforward person. When someone asks you a question, answer the question directly. Don't fudge, don't exaggerate, don't take shortcuts. Just talk to me, tell me the truth, communicate, be transparent, be nice, and we can work together and we can all move forward and be successful. There's so much time wasted. Just think about how much litigation there is in the world, and white collar crime, and just total waste of time and energy because people are not straightforward. So that would be my personal ask. Good luck, but that's my personal ask. And professional ask. So look, we are fueled by clients who meet our criteria and are attractive to our investors. So if someone is seeking to raise capital, whether it be $1 million or $1 billion, we've raised capital of all sizes and all stages, and we think we can do a really good job. So we would love to meet that person if they hit their marks.
Beautiful. Well said. Well said. Well said. Well said. I mean, Richard, again, thank you so much for reaching out. Thank you very much for advocating for your business. Thank you very much for drawing outside the line. I mean, that's just like even the best part, because there are too many people that, again, they I mean, and especially in the financial world, they drew inside the line, they follow the rules, and then they got a little bit on the gray side. And you hear all these stories of the Bernie Madoffs of the world. And you're like, and people are really hesitant when they're thinking about a bigger picture of finances. Like they hear about VCs and angels, and they hear about all these like negative stories, and they don't hear all the good stories. They don't hear about all the wonderful people that are actually working hard and educating their clients and making sure that you understand that you have a seat at the table if you choose to have a seat at the table. And so I'm just very happy that, again, you reached out to me, this crazy person that I am. And just to hear your story, to hear who you are, because I don't do business with people that I don't know. I don't care how many great recommendations. I want to know you. Because I've gotten great recommendations from people. I worked with them and they fell flat. And I'm like, oh, that's a bummer.
Sure.
It's a total bummer, which I always give people a chance. But I mean, I love that we get to, I've created this world where we get to talk. We get to talk and get to know who you are and why you are who you are. And then now you have a business too. So that's a bonus.
Well, thanks for having me. You're a fabulous conversationalist, and I had a really good time.
Thank you. And again, like I said, this is not the last time.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Have a great holiday season.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.